record now.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's afternoon here in the Netherlands. I'm talking to Paul Tasner. I'm very happy that we have the opportunity to talk to him. He's going to tell us about the big move he made in his life in terms of work, and this is very interesting for us because one of the reasons that we set up Move into the Future is that we think that especially the older generation have so much to give, and we see them as a source not only of wisdom but of huge potential and lots of opportunities, and you are actually making that happen and also making it real. So Paul, would you like to share your story with us?
Sure, I'd be delighted to. Where shall I begin? Where's the best to begin for the audience?
I think begin. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then what made you make this change in your life. What was the trigger that led to that change?
Sure. I think the interesting thing about my story is that it's not the least bit unusual, and I think that's what kind of makes it interesting, because it's so universal. Actually, I worked all of my career for somebody else. I have a background in engineering and mathematics. I always worked for somebody else. Didn't change jobs very often, as those of us who are older are more accustomed to sticking with a job for many years. Younger people, I guess, in the last few decades are more comfortable moving around. In fact, I think that's become the norm. And if you don't move around, people think there's something wrong with you. Well, that was quite the opposite, I think, for us. So I didn't have too many jobs, but I always worked for somebody else. They were always decent jobs. I'd had no complaints. I became, like most people, sometimes you become restless, or you reach the end of your patience with some jobs, and you look to move on. But so I think that was quite natural. But my last job, I was fired from for the first time in my life. Again, nothing unusual about being fired, particularly if you're older. I don't know that my age was necessarily the reason. I mean, I think these are things that will remain mysteries for most of us, and they're usually a combination of things. I'm not a good poker player, so I'm sure.
So it was quite unexpected.
It was, but it shouldn't have been. I become disenchanted with the management, and the company had been bought and sold, and well, actually, that took place after my time. But there was a big change in management, and I was really unhappy with that. So I'm sure it shouldn't have been a surprise if I'd really been looking around me, but it was. But the interesting part was that although it was a surprise, and nobody likes to be fired, you like to be in charge of your own career. I certainly wasn't devastated by it. I mean, I truly wasn't. I was, in fact, sitting alone in the meeting room with the head of human resources. It was the end of the day. I was on my way home, and they had asked me to stop into this room for a quick meeting. Little did I realize that the quick meeting was my dismissal.
Yeah.
I was sitting there with the head of human resources. It was a lovely woman that I worked with for several years. And she looked over at me and she said, "Paul, you're eating an apple." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm hungry." She said, "But you're eating an apple. And I said, yeah, why is that so unusual? And she said, believe me, it's quite unusual. Usually the people sitting across the table from me are, are very upset. And
Yeah.
she said, you look quite comfortable. And I said, well, I guess I am who I am, I guess. And I realized that, yes, it was all very unconscious of me. And I was sitting there munching on my apple while she was going over the terms of my departure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the message to me was, you were definitely ready for this and comfortable with it. And it was the proverbial blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was an interesting segue to the next part of my life.
Yeah. But I think
and-
it's important what you mentioned, because you say our generation seeks job security, and then in your case, you're confronted with this dismissal, and then you see it as an opportunity, because the labor market is changing dramatically. So
Yes.
many more people will face similar situations. So what did you do?
Well, the first thing I did was I'd already had plans that evening. So I met my wife and friends of ours for dinner, and I apologized for being late. And I said that I had a good excuse. I was just fired. And they all laughed. They thought that was really amusing. I said, no, I'm not kidding. And of course, we sat at dinner and talked about it. But it was a lovely dinner, nevertheless. And my wife's been an amazing supporter of mine for my entire life, as I am for her. So I did wallow around a little bit because it did catch me by surprise. And so the first thing I did, I went into survival mode. And my first thing was I'd worked as a consultant because I've been doing the same kind of work for 40 years. I had a large network and a good reputation.
Yeah.
So I fell back into some consulting work because it was immediate and all that kind of comfort, I guess. But I realized that I wasn't enjoying it because I did feel like this was, not to sound maudlin, but this was kind of my last shot.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to fade into the history doing this. It just, I felt like I could do more.
Okay.
I wanted
Yeah,
to.
so that wasn't important, that you felt you could do more. So after
And I wanted, yes.
Yeah, you wanted to do more. And so
then I started thinking about something entrepreneurial. What could I do? And I really thought about it. And I always had ideas for businesses throughout my career, but they never seemed to survive the next day. I'd wake up the next day and think, nah, that wasn't very good.
I have my job. Yeah.
Exactly. But this was different. I had this idea about this business, manufacturing packaging that was sustainable and fit. The term circular economy wasn't very popular, but that indeed it was, very much a part of the circular economy. What I was thinking, and every day I thought about it, and it felt better than the day before. And I after a while, I realized, okay, I think I'm onto something here. And slowly but surely, got it started. A couple of false starts and an early attempt to actually build a manufacturing facility, but that involved raising money, and I was unable to raise any money. And I'm sure there are many reasons for that. And age was definitely one of them, but not the only one, for sure.
No, yeah.
I was not an experienced entrepreneur. I'd never done this before. And I think, investors are looking for people who've been there, done that. So, but it finally settled on a business model that worked and found good partners, in other related businesses, manufacturing and shipping and engineering and design, and put together, a business model and started looking for customers.
Did you do that alone, or did you already start to partner with people?
I did it alone at the very early stage, and then even before the end of the first year, I teamed up with a partner
Okay.
with an architectural background because we were interested in building our own facility.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
we wanted to build something very green, and she had that background.
Yeah.
But we turned out not to do that, but she remained with the business anyway, and she's still there today. So,
Sorry.
and
What was the most important thing that kept you going in that first year? Because it was, as I say, you didn't have the schooling, and yet you did it. So what was the most important thing?
no one's asked me that before. That's a good question, because something did keep me going.
Yeah.
I would have to say, I've not thought about that before, but I have to say that knowing the way I react and respond to things, I probably found enough small encouragements every day to keep me excited.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I know today that's true of me, even now that the business is mature, and I still get excited about small encouragements.
Okay.
And I really mean
nice.
small. I mean
That's
small
nice.
being a positive response to a message that I've sent to somebody. There must have been enough of that to keep me very.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Maybe you want to ask something also, Ingun?
Yes, well, when I hear you speak, and of course, we're now 8 years down the road, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you look at the way you perceive work right now, you experience it. When I look at you and listen also to your TED Talk, you make entrepreneurship sound like fun, while we know that it's not always easy. But do you perceive, experience work now in a different way than what you did when you were an employee?
Completely. Completely and utterly. And it's so good to hear you say that, that I seem to be having fun at it, because it's not always fun, but I've tried to make it, quote, fun. I mean, I tell people this just to give them a sense of how I feel today versus how I felt, during my employment time. In the last decade or two of my employment, with the advent of email and the internet, I used to hate getting up in the morning or getting to the office and opening up my inbox, and it would be filled with messages, and most of them were, requesting meetings, and I just hated doing that. I knew that 9 out of 10 were things I had to do rather than wanted to do.
Yeah.
To do the politically correct thing and all that. And today it's just the opposite. I can't wait to get up and open my inbox.
Oh, that's
fantastic.
Most of them are garbage, who knows, but I still love opening it, looking through the email, seeing if there's some gems in there, and who's responded to me, who's reached out to me. That's the most exciting part of my day. Opening those early morning messages. We have a lot of contacts in Asia, so of course they're 12 or 15 hours difference, and so when I get up in the morning, they've already gone to bed and sent me their emails. So that to me is a wonderful microcosm of the differences between entrepreneurship and employment.
That has a lot to do also with doing the things that you really like. You know, this is the thing that you choose, that you wanted to do. And I also feel that you're really, for you, it's important that you're creating an impact, that you're doing something that creates value to society, you know, doing something that, you know, for the pollution of the country, that it's really something that that is in your heart, it is in your core as a human being.
Yes, you know, I think it's good that you raised that, because we don't, when I talk to people about senior entrepreneurship, we clearly focus more on the entrepreneurship rather than the precise nature of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's good of you to raise that, because I don't know that I'd feel exactly the way I do today if I were doing something that was done strictly to raise revenue and had no real social or environmental value to it. I really feel fortunate that I'm doing something that has that value. That, you know, we like to say, you know, every package we create is one less piece of plastic on the planet. And you know, fortunately, we've created many packages, and that's many, you know, thousands, millions pieces of plastic that have been eliminated and replaced with something safe and sustainable. And it's a real gift to be able to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that has a large impact on my attitude, my motivation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that you now are living your mission and what your purpose is in life, in terms also of your work? Can you say that now, that you found what your mission is?
I have, yes, and I never felt like I had a mission before.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not in this way. I mean, I felt my mission was, you know, earning a living and paying the bills and raising
What
my
everybody
family.
does, yeah.
Yeah, but that should be everyone's mission, you know, being a loving partner and husband and dad, and I mean that's everyone's mission theoretically. But now I have this other mission, and for the first time, and it feels very good. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. Something else I wanted to discuss with you, because you mentioned also in the TED Talk that older people starting a business, the chances that they are successful are much higher than when they are younger. It's something like 70%.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, that was toward the end of the talk. I ended on that. It makes sense. It is older entrepreneurs have a 70% success rate, and that's
amazing.
That's been calculated by I forget the organization that collected that data, and it makes sense because when you're older, you're still, you know, you're not as willing to take risks, I think, because if you fail, that sets you back, and you're not looking at as much time as a 23-year-old.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you make your move, you want it to be, you want to have some confidence around it. So 70% success. I think the number for young entrepreneurs, 20 somethings, or
it's much lower. Much lower.
Like 28%, 27%.
So
we're a good risk. We're a good risk.
And another reason, especially right now in the time that we're in, with the economy again, walking backwards.
Yeah.
We need those new initiatives to create jobs as well, you know, because
Yes.
of course not everyone is starting their own business, but we have to create jobs as well. So to really to energize, or to really build up that economy again, we need those we need that older generation to step in and start doing the things that they still can do. There's not
Yes.
should be doing. And that is also one of the things that you mentioned, you know, you check in when the others were checking out, you know, you had the age to retire. You could have retired, but you didn't.
I, um, well, I don't know if I could have. I mean, that's debatable, but no, I actually I don't think I could have. I mean, of course, yes, I could have, but I would have had to change my life considerably
Mhm.
in order to exist on, you know, the limited income.
Mhm.
So no, I didn't want to stop working. Um, and now it's like part of my life. It's as
Yeah.
much a part of my life as anything else. I don't. Yes, I'm working. I mean, but it doesn't feel like it's eating
No.
into my life or so,
Mhm.
or it's taking time away from something. I don't have that many leisure time pursuits. You know, I'm not a golfer or so. Um, and I enjoy my work. I enjoy engaging with others, and I'm enjoying this with you guys.
Yeah.
Um, so it feels so integrated into my life. It really does.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Oh,
I,
it's really, yeah.
Mhm.
It's been very nice to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, one of the things, and we are wrapping up because otherwise
Yeah.
we're making it too long. But at the end, also, no, somewhere in the TED Talk, you mentioned that you missed the role models. You know, when you
oh
started,
yeah.
you missed the role models at the same age group that you could feel like, you know, they can teach me things. And the younger generation, you know, the really the fast guys in the high tech industry were not your role models. You were looking for role models. Do you see yourself as a role model for the next older entrepreneurs, you know, starting a business?
Not to be falsely modest, but yes, I do. I feel like, I don't know if role model, but or cheerleader, or
Mm.
I feel like um, I can be encouraging to older
Mm.
entrepreneurs or older people who are considering entrepreneurship. I feel like I can truly be um, encouraging, or as some even say, inspirational. A lot of people use that expression, which of course makes me feel incredibly good. You know, to inspire somebody is just,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't buy that kind of good feeling. Um, so yes. And, you know, I will revise my earlier comment about no role models. I think and I don't know if this is common, or it probably is. I never had a mentor of sorts, you know, at any time, but I think I'm an observer of others, a keen observer of others. And I think I had a lot of, let's call them, micro role models throughout my career. I watched what people did, and took from that. I either took positively or negatively. I did have some negative role models in my career, and they weren't micro either. And I think I learned from that too. And so by observing all of these other role models, positive or negative, I put together my own kind of approach uh, to going forward. But there wasn't any one single
Mm.
person. There's been people I've admired, of course, and maybe I took a little bit more from them than others. But I think it's just a collection of things that I observed and acted on. So, and it's probably not unusual. I don't know that many people are lucky enough to have a role model. I know there's some young people in my life, you know, former colleagues even, who, you know, talk freely about me being their role model, which makes me feel so good, so good.
They never told you that you were the role model when you were in consultant business. Maybe a teacher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe that. Yeah,
Not,
I hope I've been a role model to my own children. I mean, they're, I know they really feel good about what I'm doing, and I hope they've gotten something from it for their own lives, their own careers. I know my granddaughter thinks I'm very cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
What if I may say so, just maybe to wrap up, what I gathered from your interview very much is not necessarily the role models you had, but you did find this kind of source within yourself that kept you going. And that was your kind of drive and passion to keep on going.
Right.
And I think this is what also your children see in your grandchildren, because then they see that you can achieve marvelous things.
Right. Exactly.
This is what I gathered from the interview. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly hope that within our organization moving to the future in the community, that you will be a role model to many, and that maybe at a later time we might be calling you again and asking you to sit down with maybe a number of these potential entrepreneurs who do want to hear more from you and your experience. So
please feel absolutely free. Let's just consider this the first of many times that we'll be together.
Thank you. That would
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure too. Stay well, and hoping our paths will cross, and maybe even in person if we're ever able to travel.
If we can fly again, absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully talk soon.
You bet. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.